Welcome to That Could Have Been an Email. I'm Leslie Bailey.
And I'm Ron Shaw.
We started this podcast to discuss the good, bad, and ugly of project managing, bring humor to our everyday project management and client situations, and a place to commiserate on all those things that our partners, friends who aren't in the industry never understand. Hi, everybody. Welcome to That Could Have Been an Email. I'm Leslie Bailey. As always, with me is Ron Shaw. Ron, happy 2023.
Yes, happy 2023, and we're starting our next round of podcasts. So just before we get going, I do want to let everyone know we're changing the format just a little bit for this year. So instead of doing weekly, we are going to be doing every other week with a new episode. So just so you can expect that. We're still working on them. Just with work being a little bit busier for both Leslie and I, we're going to space them out a little bit more this year.
Yeah, the first week of January is not what I expected with project volume. So I guess it's great that we're starting out that way, but a little bit unexpected. So hope everybody had a great holiday season, that your new year's off to a good start. Today, we're talking about all those certifications that we keep seeing everybody achieving, which is great. But we want to dive into the conversation of what some of them are they actually necessary, and do they have as much value as they used to? So Ron, I don't know about you, but I've seen a ton of people lately with all these LinkedIn posts of achieving these certifications. Do I feel left out sometimes? Sure. But I will be very honest with everybody. I tried to get the PMP and I quit in the middle of getting it. So I can't be super jealous. But we do have a special guest with us today. Mary Beth Micucci is here to talk to us about those certifications. She does hold one of them, and how important they are and how they kind of changed over the years when we're talking about getting the career of your dreams or being that really great candidate in getting that job and having that certification. So welcome, Mary Beth.
Thank you. It's so good to see you both. I'm thrilled to be here, and happy 2023.
All right. So let's jump into it. So Mary Beth, you have the DES, which is the Digital Event Strategist certification, which I believe has helped you. And you've even become an instructor of that certification. So I want to first ask, what made you get that certification or go after that certification?
Yeah, no, first of all, I love my certification. But part of that is because I actually was part of the group that helped redesign it and to refurbish and bring it back up to, at that time when I got it, bring it back up to really to be more relevant. And so from that, my experience, not only in taking the course, getting the certificate, but then being a part of updating. And then, as you mentioned, Leslie, I taught for years and years on it. And what I found is that I did one module, but every aspect of that in meeting planning and virtual planning really touched what I did in part of my career. And I found that being able to update and being able to talk to audience members and participants who were taking that, you learned a lot. And then you could ebb and flow and change as you needed to keep that certification relevant, which is, I think, a key component if you're going to do a certification, is that you want to make sure that the certificating body is actually keeping up with what the trends are. Because why get a certification if it's so out of date? That just doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, so that's a good point, because Ron and I were actually talking about that a couple of weeks ago of how much meetings, not just digital, but physical, are changing. And do these certifications really keep up? And if you have to keep renewing them, I'll be fully transparent, I don't know how much you renew them or how often you renew them, but is it really worth it? And I guess the question would be, you might know, or Ron, you might know too, is do you have to pay to renew every year? I know with the DES you do, because full disclosure, I instructed the DES as well while at PCMA, so I know all about it. But is it really worth it? So I think our bigger question is around the value of them. So let's first talk about a physical meeting certification, because I think that one is where more of our questions are around that. So what do you guys think of like a PMP or CMP? Is it still necessary? Because we do see these people like yourself, Mary Beth, who have years of experience with meetings, but don't have the certifications. Is it really needed? So Ron, I'll go to you first. What would you think in your head if you have 20 plus years of experience and you're up against, let's say, somebody with a PMP? how are they really going to know who's going to do the better job or who's actually going to fit that if they're really just basing it off a certification?
Yeah, I mean, personally, don't think it should ever be based off of a certification alone. It
Mm-hmm.
really does need to go with experience, because experience is always going to outweigh what you're going to get with one of these certifications. The way I look at most certifications is it's an opportunity to learn more. However, what I've come across in my own situations is that, unfortunately, there are times, and I think that I see this more with younger or newer people into an industry, where they come in with these certifications and they're so rigid about following exactly the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where my problem with the certifications are, is it really can almost hamper innovation and movement sometimes, versus helping things be smooth and move along. So when hiring somebody for a job, I would always go with experience is going to outweigh a certificate.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Mary Beth, what do you think?
I completely agree. 100% agree with that. And one of the things that I find in when I'm with clients that I'm working in, or different, colleagues that I work with, is that while a PMP is, first of all, I don't blame you for quitting, Leslie. That is a big one. And it's a lot of work, and I commend all of those who do that and go through that process. But there are all sorts of, project management styles out there. And I think that a lot of things, when you were saying, Ron, like the rigidness of this is what you have to follow is XYZ, is that I would actually challenge this audience or others to look at more of an agile approach
Mm-hmm.
to the whole project management. Because, when you're talking about launching a software, for example, or some sort of program where you have a start and end, and that's when you end, is when you're done. You've gone through your process. You've done everything that you're supposed to do. But with an agile approach, you're constantly moving and you're constantly getting feedback. And so it's smaller chunks, if you will. And I think that has shown, it has shown tremendous value, and actually more satisfaction. It gets done out faster. You're able to adapt when things don't work, or your client might change, or your needs change, and you're getting that constant feedback as you go through. To me, I love that approach of being flexible and not
Mm-hmm.
this rigidity that this is the only way we can do it, because there are so many different ways to get to the solution, and you should be open to those. And anybody who has a younger child who learns new math will understand that the
Oh
new
no.
math is actually, you can find different ways to come to the solution, and it's still factual. It's still math, but people learn differently, and people
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to approach that in a different manner, because you're going to get to the end result that you want. It's just the way you get there.
Yeah, I think you both are right, especially with the way people are looking for new experiences so much in meetings. And we all know things happen on site that were not planned, that you don't have a solution for. And is that certification really going to help you in that emergency situation of having to replace a speaker or get more seating or create an overflow room? And maybe it does. And like I said, I haven't taken one, so I wouldn't know. But I just think of, Mary Beth, that's such a good word, is agile, because that's what every planner is, or that's what you should be, because nothing ever goes to plan. If your event was flawless and smooth, tell me, because I've never been to an event that 100% everything was on the mark, went right on time. So I think certifications for me would show me that you can retain information, and that you did learn it. You do have some sort of process, but it wouldn't be something that I would pick one candidate over the other when it comes to experience, because you could have the certification and have 1 year of experience versus somebody who has 15. So that's not really going to be a heavy hitter for me when making that decision. So those are such valid points. And like we said, we would love to hear from planners who have these certifications, because I want to know if your opinion is a little different, or if it has helped you, or if those certifications have changed over the years when they renew them or refresh them, let's say, to include situations like that, because maybe they do. But I doubt it, because you can't really plan for every situation there is. So I want to know, Mary Beth, like, what you talked about, what motivated you to really get this certification, but has it helped you professionally and has it furthered your career? That would be my biggest question for a lot of people who, when you see their name, they've got 18 letters after the fact. And I want to know if it furthered your career or how it kind of changed the way that you look at your positions and the way you do projects.
That's a great question. I think that my DES certainly helped when I was in 100% the virtual space.
Mm-hmm.
It just, there is and for those who know what it is, I mean, it's the same thing with a PMP. There's a recognition behind that yes,
Mm-hmm.
you know that what this is, or a CMP. But what I think has actually what I think has actually helped me more is not necessarily getting a certification, because just to be clear, there are differences between a certification and a certificate of completion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something to clarify, because certification is a tremendous amount of work just to develop the content, to keep it moving forward. There's definitely costs. There's definitely renewals that you need to do every year, continuing to take content. And there's value there, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But I have actually found that as my career has ebbed and flowed and I move into different topic areas or different things that I've been working on, is to look at what a certificate might give me.
Mm-hmm.
And those tend to be shorter classes. Some of them are a couple hours long, some of them might be 6 weeks. Then there are a ton of opportunities out there to get both certifications as well as certificate of completions. And I have found that when I'm looking to do something in a job that I might not have 100% background on, I'll go take a certificate class.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me has found tremendous help. I mean, as something as simple as I had a project where I was just needed to get my proofreading skills up, just because that was just going to be part of this project. And taking I was like, oh my gosh, something so simple that I didn't even realize, just an organization that this proofreading course gave me,
Mm-hmm.
changed the entire project and how we work. And I always find, to me, is that finding those efficiencies and being able to get the knowledge as you need it, right, whatever topic it might be, is a tremendous benefit.
Yeah.
That has helped me. And I have done that in multiple areas of topics that aren't necessarily meeting planning either. I would actually challenge the audience and these people to look at, like, what other skills can you improve? Like, what soft skills can you improve?
Mm-hmm.
How can you be a better person, better leader? What are there other areas that you can focus on that I think you might find to improve, maybe even your EQ, which really shows to improve business, shows
Mm-hmm.
how you might be able to move up in organizations. Those are some of the areas that I've been really focusing on. And that has helped me. I have seen that progress. I've seen how I can improve and how that has helped me in my work.
Yeah. So it sounds like with the certificates, I'll decipher there, that's more for educational and honestly for personal growth. It sounds like, yes, it's for professional growth as well, but it's not, to me, it sounds like there's not so much pressure as a certification, because you're just going, like you said, to educate yourself a little bit more to be successful in this project. Whereas certification to me is like, well, dollar signs for one is what I hear when I hear the word certification. And just I would want to know what the value of it is, because if I'm going to renew it every year, every 5 years, whatever it is, if there's a certificate program out there that I can just go to get those skills I need, I'm going to choose that, which is maybe why we're seeing so many different programs out there, especially with hybrid. I've seen, and Ron, I know you and I hate that word. We talked about it, but everybody's still using it, so I'll use it. There's so many hybrid ones out there now, and they've become so specific to certain things in a hybrid, which is probably why I think I see one every day, because it's a different institute putting it on. But obviously, like you're saying, Mary Beth, people are looking for those skills and they're not necessarily looking to be certified in it. They just need to brush up on those skills or get into more of those trends and things that are happening. So, Ron, are you kind of saying the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, to the whole point of this, I think what I feel is it's a matter of education. So
Mm-hmm.
certification, it's a matter of education and how you use that. Yes, the certifications tend to weigh heavier. And this is what I don't agree with is where employers are weighing heavier on a certification versus certificates or vice versa. Again, for me, it's always going to be experience first, but I also am very much in favor of people going out and getting more education. I think the more you can educate yourself, that's great. You're helping improve what you're able to do and your knowledge about what you're doing. So it's a matter of, I think, when organizations focus too much on the structure around a certification. So like, especially we'll use the PMP, for example, people really get focused in on like, well, this is how it has to be because this is the structure. And they actually build their own organization to work within that structure. And I think that goes and creates more problems for them sometimes than they realize. And really the direction they ought to be going is what Mary Beth was talking about, and being agile. Like you have to be able to move. And I don't know how many of these actually build this in, but I think a lot of them ought to start building in crisis management, because they don't know how many people I run across that when something does not go as planned, they don't know what to do. It becomes a big struggle of, what do we do now? But that's where you can also tell the seasoned professional that's been doing it for a while, because they're like, I've got you here. I know what to do.
Yeah. And that's such a good point too, because like I said, I'm sure, and like you said, Mary Beth, there is a certain recognition that comes when you see those letters. And for recruiters, I'm sure if they do, that does maybe get that candidate in faster. But what I think would suck during the interview process is Mary Beth has a DES and Ron, you don't. And I asked Mary Beth, do you know the Notified platform? Do you know Digital? Do you know Zoom? And she says no to all of those, but she has a DES. I'm going to be a little surprised, I guess, that she's not familiar with any of those since she has a certification. So it's kind of a catch-22 to me. It does, like you said, Mary Beth, carry that weight, but then once you get in there, it may not be able to support it.
100%, Leslie, and I look at that, and even with what Ron was saying, I mean, there's first, nothing ever is going to take away from experience, hands-on experience, life experience. You're in a situation where, Leslie, I think you and I were on a webinar one time, and there was a fire drill for our presenter, and we had to, I won't say the P word, but we had to change course and figure out what to do. And that's a mini crisis, but it was that, having that experience changed how I did the next one when something happened and something went down, and you know how to address it, you know how to talk to the audience, you know what to do. Those things may come up in a certificate or certification course, but nothing will ever replace that experience. And I think you can also learn, that's the other thing, is that you have these young guys coming into this industry, having some sort of mentor type ship where you are really working with an experienced meeting planner or somebody who's whatever they're doing, that can change your world, because that is where you see the crisis management, which I think is that's actually one of my notes I brought up. Like, that is a course you should take. That is, that is something that's so important. And I think you're going through this, and it's just like, even like, the three of us have worked together before, and we all have different skill sets, and we all can balance off of each other. But what I have found with working with colleagues is knowing where our strengths are and knowing when to ask for help, because that's not going to be taught in any certification course, but there are personalities, it's how we work within industries, it's how we, quite honestly, how we learn from mistakes. We've had situations where, we've worked on one particular client together, the three of us, where there were some challenges. And on the next round, we were able to, in a lot of this, I give to Ron's credit, be able to simplify and to be able to organize and to be able to take our experiences from this and put it into something where it was streamlined. And that would never have come. It doesn't come from any type of degree. It comes from working in the industry, understanding that I've done this with other clients. This works here, this didn't work here. And having colleagues and clients that are open to change and to be able to accept these things. That to me is, I use this particular example that I referenced often because
Yeah.
it's mind blowing what we did, and we actually took statistics to see the difference in. I mean, I think we went from, let's say, 350 errors to 3. I mean, it was
Yeah.
that significant of a change.
Yeah. And that, I mean, I think that can even extend to, asking someone if they've had exposure or experience to a platform, because I will be honest, Ron's exposure and experience to this particular platform was way beyond mine. And I wouldn't ask him questions because I had worked with it, but I hadn't worked with it in a long time. So I think in the interview process and even in contracting, when somebody asks you, do you have this experience? I'm always blatantly honest about the level of experience I have with it, because if you're looking for me to build out some HTML in there, that's probably not going to happen. Somebody else is going to have to do it, which Ron did for me. So I think that can even extend to when you are even talking about someone's experience level, because we can all say we've seen this platform, but what did you actually do in it, and how long ago did you actually do it?
That's a key point, Leslie, because software changes constantly. There are constant changes to that. And, if you're not updated on a continual basis, if you're not in it, you lose that skill. And, it can be relearned, but that is a really good point.
It can be relearned, but it takes the memory muscle to do that. I can attest to that.
But it's just willing to, and I think we've got a larger point here of it takes a team. You really got to be willing to take a team and be willing to work with it. And I don't want to completely discount the work that people put in when getting these certifications or certificates. There is a lot of work. I mean, I've seen the syllabus for the PMP, and my hat goes off to people that do go through with that. I think it's the mindset that they need to come with afterwards when they go back into or rejoin the workforce, with that knowledge of see how you can apply those and not be locked into 100% of it has to be this way. Look how you can take what you learn from it, apply it to the business that you're working in to improve it. And you have to be constantly willing to improve. You cannot get stuck in, well, this is the way that this certificate or certification dictates something must be done. Use it as like a guiding light of, this is how I kind of need to frame it. If you're lost, you can kind of fall back to the knowledge that you pick up during those types of courses and then apply it, versus being, as we keep saying, rigid. You don't want to be rigid when it comes to this, because that's when, again, you miss opportunities, you push away innovation. You've really just got to be willing to take that in and also share that knowledge with teams. If I have a certificate and I've gotten some great things, I'm going to share that with the people that I work with and say, oh, well, here's how we can potentially make improvements to such and such a process.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, because I wonder, and I mean, I could easily Google this, so nobody think I can't figure it out. Who renews these certifications and who writes the textbooks for them? Because I would be interested to see if they do any type of crowdsourcing, or I realize call for papers is the wrong term, but out to meeting planners to kind of give examples to update in these textbooks or these certifications, because to me, that would be super helpful. And that would be such an easy way to keep them up to date for these newer innovations and trends that are happening. Again, somebody can tell me what actually happens with that, or maybe an author of the textbook can reach out to us and let us know. But I think that would be such a different way to get that newer information into those certifications every year. And I mean, like I said, I don't know what you have to do to renew. I know for the DES, I don't know what you do for the DES anymore, Mary Beth. It's completely lost my brain for renewing. But I'm wondering, what does that entail? How do you kind of prove, I guess, that your knowledge and your understanding is still there?
Yeah, and I think, that's a great question. And I think with both certifications, I had one of my previous jobs, they had a certification program where you had to enter, and I would think this would be with most physicians, nurses, all of these certifications that come up that are valuable. And I think, I think they're great. With what the caveat that Ron said is the rigidity has to be it can't only be this way with like project management. I mean,
Yeah.
medical stuff, yes, it has to be that way. But
Medical
with
standard, gotta go.
but with the project management, where you're open to different ideas and you can share the knowledge, which I think is so critical.
Mhm.
But I would think, Les, with most of these is a lot of this is probably honor systems where you submit something that you've taken, or if you go to an annual meeting, you're certainly, tracked in what you do and submitting into a program. And I would hope that with most of the organizations, the accrediting bodies have some sort of system where individuals can input that,
Mhm.
into their membership or their file, whatever it is. But I do love the idea, and I think when I was involved with the DES program, that was one of the things that I liked. We really started looking at how can we bring industry experts in and share
Mhm.
experiences, and that to me it was such a fun time to develop this content, and it was such a diverse group. And met some great people doing it. And I have since rolled off of that process, but I hope they continue because, as you were saying, Leslie, like bringing in industry experts to get experience,
Mhm.
I think is such a critical component of learning. And it's that mentorship. It's that ask the expert questions. It's how did you do this? What were your mistakes, which I always find. How did you
Yeah.
learn from that, and what did you then change? To me, it's just golden. I think a colleague used to call it the golden nugget, right? That was her piece of information that was like, this is it.
Well, and it's because you see them come out sometimes post event where they're like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah company did this because of something that happened in their event. Well, those articles are great, but I want to know exactly how they did it. And that's the people that they should be asking, because you can tell me it was all fine and great. It turned out, you know, so perfect in the end, but there was some stuff that went down while they were trying to get that backup plan in place. And that's what people need to know. Especially when you might be a team of one or a small team, somebody's solution, or maybe one that's in the certification, is not going to work for you. Because I think right now a lot of people are operating on smaller teams where these kind of proposed structured solutions are not going to work.
Yeah, and I think it's all dependent on the variables that happen, and I unfortunately some people might not want to share that information of what really happened, but
I
I
will.
do, yeah.
PM me on the side.
But I do think there's such value in that. Oh my gosh, just
Mhm.
sharing experiences, and especially after the fact.
Yeah.
And whether it went well or it didn't, what you learned and how you're going to implement changes in the future. It's that ongoing process of never giving up and always learning. I mean, there's so many and I would say that when you're looking for ideas is bringing in, or you're trying to find a solution, is don't discount levels of within your
Mhm.
organization, because whether it's your CEO or it's your assistant, everybody has value and everybody has ideas. And treating your staff and your colleagues equally,
Mhm.
um, and having an environment where being able to share opinions or ideas is welcomed and
Yeah.
not negated, because there are people there. We all know there are organizations that you cannot speak up.
Mhm.
And if you have that culture, what a difference that makes. And I think
Yeah.
that's where you're going to find solutions that, you know, because solutions from all over the world, from all over the place, because
Mhm.
you might have individuals coming in with different certifications, different certificates, different experiences that you've never had. And to be
Yeah.
able to welcome that would be amazing to hear those ideas.
Yeah. And I think it could also go as far as for companies to kind of open up and say why they want to see these certifications, or what it actually does. Because I know we all love competition, especially when we're looking for a job. But I think if you've got a team of some people have it, some people don't, kind of like you're saying, Mary Beth, open it up to why. And then I won't feel so much pressure to go get it. If you're just saying it's great that they have it and you guys can knowledge share, then I don't feel the pressure to go get it. But if you would tell me that you would like me to go through these certificates to gain this knowledge on this or that to help me with a certain aspect of my job, then yes, I'm totally open to doing that. And there's no pressure to go through that whole process. So the last few minutes, do we think certifications are as necessary as they used to be? I know that's kind of a trick question.
I don't know if they're ever actually fully necessary, except maybe in some instances, like Mary Beth was saying, in the medical field. Well, yeah, I mean, some standards there.
Okay, let's say valued.
So for me, I still see value to them. I wouldn't ever say there's not value to them. It's again, it's how you use them, how you plan to use them in the future. But it is also a matter of, like we've been saying, are they up to date? Like, have they been touched in the last 3 years? Because to me, and it's probably going to be less as technology continues to advance. Look at where we've gone in the last 3 years. What happened in our world and how things have changed. We've gone through a pandemic that shut a lot of things down. We have seen or are seeing more advances in technology. Those are going to continue to happen, and I suspect they're going to happen quicker as we move. And the agencies or groups that regulate these certificates and certifications, they need to incorporate that in. Otherwise, you're going to be not doing a service to your people with the training that you're providing them. You need to stay on top of those and have standards of, here, if we're going to make the most out of it. And I think some of them, that's when I was looking at that syllabuses as I was exploring when I was in my period of not working, trying to figure out what was relevant, what made sense, because a lot of them, they were outdated. They didn't really have a focus into technology the way they should. And I think every program now needs to have a technological component to it.
Yeah.
Really focus in. Like, it should be not just a small piece, it should be a larger section because of all of the different technologies, the different MarTechs, event techs. There's just so much that has to be built into this to provide the right value and the right education to people that are working their way in or through these industries.
Yeah. Mary Beth, what do you think still is valuable as when they first started?
I think they're always going to be valuable. I can't imagine them not. I think, educating yourself in any manner is always important, and continuing to do that. And I think there are softwares out there that you have to keep up with their certification. I think they probably do keep their information updated as needed. I think that the ones that we've been talking about, so from like a project management or meeting planning, it's a good question to ask. And I think if you're looking to get certified, you should find out how often they're updated, to know what do I have to do to renew. And I think that's a really good question, because if you put all of that effort into the PMP and then don't get it renewed for whatever reason, you're not, you need to educate yourself on what that is, and are you going to be able to continue to do it, to afford it. And I do like the idea, Leslie, what you had said is, if there is a requirement at your organization to take a certain certification, why? Just understand the reasoning behind that. But experience is always going to take that over. And I think that just-in-time learning of going in, and there are courses all over the place that you can take to help improve skill sets, are great. But I'll never say experience is probably number one. Always. Yeah. Always.
I agree. I will say they are still valuable, but like you said, Ron, they need to be renewed. And again, we're commending everybody who has these, because I definitely couldn't make it through. But it's always going to look at an experience point for me too. It's great that you've got that certification or that certificate, but I'm really going to look at how you dealt with situations and what experience you went through. So I agree with both of your points.
Excellent. Well, I think that brings us to the completion of this episode. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been great to have you on.
We'll send your certificate.
Thank you, guys. It's been wonderful seeing you guys and catching up, and thank you for asking me to be on.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye, everybody.